Rocky Balboa, one of the most well-known characters in all of cinema, that's inspired people all over the globe to change their life for the better. A character that is far from an easy run, and yet somehow, through grit, luck and determination, becomes the undisputed heavyweight boxing champion of the world. But they're just movies. So the question posed to us today is, how would this unstoppable force Rocky Balboa do in a real heavyweight boxing match against contenders from his era and the current era? For the purpose of this video, we're going to be using Rocky IV's version of Rocky, where he's undoubtedly the best of all 5 films. Also, to keep it fair for the modern day boxers, we'll be doing 12 3-minute rounds with 60 seconds break in between, as opposed to the 15 rounds that we see in most Rocky films. Let's get into it. Okay, to start the competition, we have the ex-heavyweight champion of the world, Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder's mainly known for his insane power and his quite long frame, but personally I don't think this would be too much of a problem for Rocky. As we see in Rocky IV, Rocky faces the giant Ivan Drago that can also produce an insane amount of power, probably a lot more than Deontay Wilder could. Also, not to mention that Ivan Drago is an infinitely better fundamental boxer than Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder isn't a good boxer on his own, but he has a lot of power. If you took away the power, he wouldn't be in the rankings whatsoever. That's just a fact. But he does have the power, so it could possibly pose a problem for Rocky if he was to tap him with one of his very, very, very strong shots. Because Rocky relies a lot on exhausting his opponent with his hands down, he'd have to adapt to having a sort of higher guard. The body shots aren't really that much of a worry, because Deontay Wilder usually knocks people out with a shot to the head. Rarely he'll go down to the body. His footwork isn't really anything to worry about either. I think Rocky has him on the footwork. And I honestly think that Rocky, after a couple of rounds, as we've seen with Deontay Wilder's sometimes a bit fragile gas tank, I don't think that would be a problem for Rocky to wear him down and then start pushing him into the corners and getting inside and beating him up. So the only thing, as I said earlier, that we've got to worry about is the lucky punch from Deontay Wilder. Now, if Deontay twists everything into it and he tries to knock out Rocky and it lands clean, it doesn't matter how much heart Rocky's got, he will not be able to get back up. He'll be knocked out. But realistically, I think, as I said earlier, Rocky's going to win that. He's going to tire Deontay Wilder out. He's going to start hitting him to the body. He's going to be chopping the wood. And I think that he'll end up pummeling Wilder in the corner once he gets tired and knock him out. I think this will most likely happen between the 7th and the 9th round. I can't imagine it going much longer than that. And even if I think it went to points, I think, which is very unlikely for this matchup, I still think Rocky would win it by a few rounds. So, for a score of 10 of how difficult Deontay Wilder would be for Rocky, I'd give Deontay about 4. Alright, so next up we've got Dave the White Rhino Allen. Dave Allen is one of my favourite boxers about. He's a veteran of the game and he's beaten some worthy opponents in his time. Dave Allen's 6'3", so he's quite a bit taller than Rocky. Rocky's 5'11", but he's got a bit of a short reach for a heavyweight. He's got a 75-inch reach. Now, I couldn't find anywhere online for Rocky's reach, but you could assume it'd be similar or a little bit shorter, like maybe 73 inches. So not enough to really make a huge difference, but still, they'd be brawling the fight. So he's pretty short for a heavyweight. Dave Allen is a tank, and he's got technical know-how how to make a fight end when he wants to. He can choose the round if you're following his game. If he gets you into that trap of you getting into his rhythm, he's tiring you out. It's like in the Johnny Fisher fight we saw, the second one, where he tired Johnny Fisher out for the first few rounds and then he's laid into him and knocked him out. He chose when he was going to knock him out. He could have waited a little bit longer, or he could have took the risk and done it a bit earlier. But Dave Allen is extremely good at wearing down his opponents and walking forward with that tight, high guard. That guard is very difficult to break. From everything we've seen from him, usually he can slip down, guard the body, and guard the head. I think that's one of his best fundamentals, along with his jab. Even though he hasn't got a long reach, I think his jab's got no telegraph. his blocking is very good. It's insane. I think that'd be the most difficult thing for Rocky. But eventually, I think he would be able to penetrate his guard. I think that Rocky getting in close and pushing him back would be a change of pace for Dave Allen, as usually he's the one walking forward and pushing people back. I think Rocky would be able to maybe slip down, left hand, right hand to the body, pushing, keep back. And Dave Allen would soon realise that his strategy wouldn't work against a fighter like Rocky. Dave Allen, another thing is he's not a young man. I think Dave would fire a lot of shots that were not damaging Rocky, and instead would tire himself out because Rocky has that insane endurance. Rocky would then see the chink in his armour and back him into a corner, throwing everything he had into Dave Allen. I think by this time, Dave Allen's guard would be very weak. I think Rocky would start winning the fight later in maybe the 6th or the 7th round, and the grit of both men would drag them into a decision. It could possibly drag him into a decision. Realistically, I think that's how it'd go. I think that Dave Allen wins the first 5 or 6 rounds. Rocky goes in after that and he starts taking his head off. Rocky would probably knock him out in about the 10th, 11th or 12th round, really late. But if it had to go to a decision, it's difficult. I think it'd still go to Rocky, because if Rocky was knocking him down near the end, I mean, it'd mitigate it anyway. It'd be like an 8-10 score or something. It's very difficult because Rocky's never really faced a fighter like Dave Allen. Because, as I said earlier, Dave Allen's got that main thing of he's got that technical know-how. Like, he's a veteran of the game. He's a bit of an older chap now. Don't get me wrong, Apollo Creed, he was a veteran of the game as well, but he was still quite show-off, Apollo Creed, in the first few movies. He was trying to show off, dance around the ring. Dave Allen's not like that. Dave Allen's going to keep as much energy as he possibly can and walk forward and just absorb some shots for the first few rounds and then start going into you. But I don't think they'd be able to exhaust Rocky. Rocky's gas tank is very good. Like, even though at the end of the fights we always see him getting tired, it talks and shows to his character that he can always push through it and keep fighting. So, my score for Dave Allen's toughness for Rocky, I think the fair one's about a 6. So next up, we've got the man himself, Dr. Steelhammer, Vladimir Klitschko. Klitschko stands as 6'6" and has an insane reach of 81 inches. Now, at first this may seem impossible, as Rocky will be tiny in comparison, but then we have a look at Rocky 4. And I had a look on Google, and Ivan Drago's reach is 85 inches. They're basically the same, apart from Drago has a slightly longer reach, because Ivan Drago was 6'6" as well. So, essentially, Klitschko is just a worse version of Drago. Now, Klitschko would be trying to utilise his jab and throw in his jab. But I think after a little while, as we saw even in the fight with Drago, because they slightly mirror each other, that Rocky would eventually, as he did with Deontay Wilder, he'd be slipping in, going to the body, going to the head, and I think eventually tire him out and probably knock him out. It's just difficult. I definitely think Rocky could use his hip movement to get out of those jabs. I think a couple of them might land, but even if Vladimir Klitschko landed that big right hand to put the hammer down, I don't think it'd be able to finish Rocky off. I mean, because even as we've seen with Ivan Drago, like, if we take these films as reality, Rocky is an absolute beast. The only time we ever see weakness from him is in Rocky 3 with his fight. What's sweat? In his fight with Drago. In his fight with Clubber Lang, sorry. Because Clubber Lang, he intimidated him, he scared him. But that never happened again to Rocky. Rocky learned from that mistake, built on it, and kept going. I mean, against an even more intimidating fighter in Ivan Drago. So I think the score we're going to give Vladimir is a 5. Now this one's where it takes a turn, as you all know. I'm a crazy Rocky fan. Mike Tyson versus Rocky Balboa. Rocky is not winning that, I'm sorry. Now let me explain. Some people say that Clubber Lang fought a lot like Mike Tyson, and then you could say, oh well, but Rocky beat Clubber Lang in the second fight. Well, they don't fight at all similar. If you actually look at their fights, they're completely different fighters to each other. Clubber Lang relies solely on his left and right hooks. He never throws a jab in any of the fights. I think, if my memory proves right, he never throws a jab in any of the fights. And he relies solely on the left, right hook or the body hooks. Mike Tyson's completely different tin of beans. He's different gravy. Like, it's mental. Mike Tyson throws the jabs with menace. He twists into his shots. He's a lot faster than Clubber Lang. He's got much more power than Clubber Lang. And Mike Tyson had a chin of iron as well. I mean, Mike Tyson versus Rocky, I think, would be a massacre. Because they're both the same height. I think they've both actually got quite a similar reach as well. But even just look at the build. Like, Mike Tyson is heavyweight boxing. He's everything heavyweight boxing is. He absolutely pummels his opponent. And then you could say that Mike Tyson did lose. He did lose. But not to fight as like Rocky. Like Evander Holyfield, a long, tall fighter who had to keep him at bay. Rocky's not like that tall. Rocky would have to if he wanted to hit him, get in close with him. And I don't think that he could survive an exchange with him. Now, I don't think Rocky's winning that. He'd have to get... But if he did, he'd have to get Mike Tyson tired, which is a very difficult feat on its own. And I think it's just unrealistic. So I think that the difficulty would be a 9 for Tyson. And finally, we have the greatest to ever do it. My favourite, Muhammad Ali. This one's particularly interesting. This might surprise some of you. But Apollo Creed is based on Muhammad Ali. And they share an almost identical fighting style. And there is one thing in the films that talks and shows to this, and it's the head movement. So, Apollo Creed's character is mainly built around jabs and moving and dancing and good head movement, right? And Apollo Creed wins the first fight by a hair. So I'm going to be using Apollo Creed as a reference. He wins the first fight by a hair. The second fight, he loses. Third fight, the sparring match we learn about, I think that's after the fight with Clubber Lang, is very interesting because Rocky lost that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he would lose if he was at his best, because you gotta remember, he'd just come off of probably the hardest fight of his career at the time, because he lost to Apollo Creed. He came back. He lost to Clubber Lang. Sorry. He came back and he put on a performance in sparring with Apollo Creed, and apparently, from what we know, Apollo Creed won. But even then, I don't think it matters, because Muhammad Ali is just a better fighter than Apollo Creed was. Apollo Creed didn't have the ring IQ. You would think that in the first movie he would have been able to easily deal with Rocky just from the years of experience. A bit like Dave Allen, where he's got the experience, but Apollo Creed lacks that experience, even though he already has it. So he doesn't put it into play. He has it, but he doesn't think about it, because he's more of an entertainer, and he only stops entertaining when he sees a problem. So I think that Muhammad Ali would be able to withstand Rocky. I think he knows the game so well, he'd be able to keep him at bay, frustrate Rocky, grab him, throw him off. A bit like he did with the first fight with Sonny Liston. Big right hands. I think he would put Rocky to the floor a few times, just where Rocky's jumping in. You got to remember, Rocky doesn't actually have much skill. Like, I know we're talking about Rocky IV Rocky, but if you just look, he's an incredible fighter, but he's one of these fighters who doesn't have loads of skill. So, if you take a look at someone like Johnny Fisher, that he slightly reminds me of Rocky. Obviously, he's not as good as Rocky, but try to rely on the jab and that sort of stuff, the fundamentals of boxing, but they always default back to the big left, right hooks, body hooks, uppercuts. They always default back to that. So I don't think realistically Muhammad Ali is having a tough time beating Rocky. Could it go the distance? Yep, I think so. I don't think realistically Muhammad Ali's knocking out Rocky, but I do think he'd knock him down a few times. Would Rocky knock down Muhammad Ali? At least once, possibly, if Muhammad makes a mistake. But even then we see things like the Rumble in the Jungle with George Foreman. He utterly dismantled George Foreman. Ali utterly dismantled him. And I think he could quite easily do the same to Rocky. Because, as I said earlier, Apollo Creed, is based on Muhammad Ali, but he hasn't got anywhere near the skill that Muhammad Ali did. And Rocky still really struggled and did lose their third match, if you want to call it that, the sparring session. So, excuse me. Well, yes, so the score I'm going to give Ali is, I think, an 8. So 1 notch under Mike Tyson. Let me explain why. Because realistically, I can't see Mike Tyson losing to Rocky. I can't imagine it. But I can imagine in just a couple, like 1 or 2 ways, how Muhammad Ali would lose to Rocky. Right. Well, that's it. I really hope you enjoyed the video. And let me know what you think about it in the comments. Cheers, lads.